everybody. It's Hank Linderman. Welcome to Getting Angry on Monday, August 3rd. I'm your host here for Getting Angry. And as we say all the time, even though we're getting angry, we don't want to act like damn fools. We want to do the right thing. We want to gather up our anger and use it to stir up our determination to get ready to do the right things. I see Barbara is here. Barbara, of course, you know I'm going to ask you to share. Thanks for the compliment on the music. Roy Frazier is here. Hello from across the pond. I'm so glad to see you all. Roy, of course, share that for us. We've got a special guest today, as I think I showed you, Keith Freeman, who's running. He's a candidate for Greater Clark County, Indiana Board of Education. That's in southern Indiana. And we're going to talk about the virus and how it's affecting schools and a couple other things related to education here in the United States, and especially dealing with the virus. Barbara says, happy birthday. That was yesterday. Thank you so much. I try not to make a big deal about my birthday, especially on Facebook. So apologies to those of you that wanted to post things and stuff on my wall. I kind of want it, not because I don't like my birthday, but I don't know why, but I'm happier just kind of keeping quiet about it for whatever reason. Well, so much going on, of course. Now, by the way, you notice I've already jumped over to the numbers here, and our numbers are not good. As you know, they carry on over and over again. We're dealing with the same problems. This is the United States from yesterday. And notice that even though the new cases are lower than they've been in a while, 49,000 versus 60 and even 70. Hi, Barbara. Sorry for the delay. Oh, I don't know. Mark Andes is here. Mark, by the way, I guess I have to make sure that we are clear about this. Mark is going to be a guest again on the show. Let me see if I can find his picture. I've got Mark's picture here. Here we go. There's Mark. Mark Andes is going to be back tomorrow to do a phone call with us. And we didn't talk about the other bands that he was in. Cindy Franklin says, happy birthday. Thanks, Cindy. And, of course, we need you to share. Mark Andes will be here tomorrow, and he's going to talk about Heart and Firefall and anything else that you all would like to talk about. So we're really looking forward to that. But let's get back to, we do have to get back to our numbers. And here's, like I say, our numbers from yesterday. They appear low, and even the deaths appear low, but we know from sad experience that the numbers over the weekend can be a little misleading. So my expectation is we're going to see more deaths actually and more new cases show up. Here is from yesterday also, and let's see who the number one is for new cases. It looks to be Florida with California close behind. Notice all the way down at Tennessee, 1,400 new cases. That's a lot. Louisiana, 3,400 cases. So we have not begun really getting rid of this virus. And you know, this is the same old story, that over and over again, we've had a failure of leadership in the United States. We could stop this virus whenever we wanted to, but we are so far unwilling. Here's, we're digging in a little bit to Kentucky, and even though we are used to the idea that the case numbers are a little bit lower over the weekends, what we see is that Kentucky still has a substantial amount of new cases and 2 new deaths. I expect these will jump right back up tomorrow. That's my expectation. This is a very interesting chart. And what this is new confirmed COVID-19 cases per day by the United States, per state. And notice, based on whether your governor is a Republican or a Democrat. So the red states right there, you can see their numbers are significantly higher in terms of new cases. We've unfortunately allowed the idea of wearing masks and social distancing and washing our hands and so on, being careful, to become a political issue. There's no science. There's no politics here that the virus is going to pay attention to. And we are using, thank you, Cindy, for sharing. Much appreciated, much appreciated. But this is fascinating that states like Texas and so on that are, Republican governors, Florida and so on, are having a very, very difficult time. It's not to say that there are no Democratic states that aren't having problems. Even the state of Hawaii has apparently had an increase. They're not in the trouble that the rest of us have been, but it's obviously a concern. And how this relates to us, one of the things we're also going to have a guest, by the way, on Thursday that we need to mention. Dr. Greg is going to be back, and one of our listeners is working on theme music for Dr. Greg so that he'll keep coming back. Greg Adams, who is a microbiologist and a surgeon from Santa Clara County, California, and he's an authoritative voice, a voice of reason that's very helpful to us when we have specific questions about the virus. And I'm hoping we're going to talk about hydroxychloroquine. So the final thing I want to show you before we call Keith Freeman, who's going to be our guest. This is, I wasn't able to get into the article because I haven't subscribed yet, and it's the Houston Chronicle, but this picture says it all. I'm just so tired. The work that we are subjecting our first responders to, and first responders meaning people who work in healthcare, but this also applies to people that work in grocery stores. I have relatives working in grocery stores, people that are bringing your food out, people working in restaurants. They are on the front lines, the essential workers. And it makes it all the more frustrating that we can't properly deal with the virus. It means that we will have to shut the country down, write everybody a check, and say your job is to stay home, and honestly arrest people who are going to violate this. I saw, by the way, that a plane, I want to say Delta, but I'm not sure about that, that was on its way to Atlanta, had departed from a gate. I'm not sure what the departure city was, but two people refused to wear masks, and they returned to the gate and took the people that wouldn't wear masks off the plane, and I think that's exactly correct. Jim Porter is here all the way from Boyle County, that's Danville, Kentucky, in the district. Jim, please do us a favor and share this so that an angel can get their wings. Well, enough about this. We're going to, we need to move over to calling Keith Freeman. And Keith is, by the way, it's in Indiana, but we're hopefully going to be discussing some issues that relate to the virus and how it affects all of us. Let's see if I can get Keith on the phone. One ringy-dingy, as we say.
Hello, Hank. How are you?
I'm doing great. Keith, how are you doing?
Good, fine. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. We were just discussing the toll this is taking on folks who are on the front lines of dealing with the virus, and that includes healthcare workers, of course, and people working at grocery stores, but it also includes people who work at schools. And I'm going to switch over here to a picture that was sent to me by Bill McNichol. And it says a school reopened. They're talking about Greenville Junior High. Is that in your district, in the area where you're running for Board of Education?
It's in a neighboring school district. So we're in Clark County, and Greenville is in Floyd County. So we are next door neighbors.
Okay, great. Well, you can see what happened. The first day of school, they had a child show up who tested positive for the virus, and of course, I don't believe they shut down, but it really has to be a cause for alarm. Is there anything going on in Greater Clark County related to the virus?
In Greater Clark County, and I'm sorry I misspoke, that's Greenfield Central. That's in a different school district. But in Greater Clark, we've had like one positive case that we know of in one of our school districts, one of our schools. And, we've actually done a pretty good job. I do commend the school board and that school for identifying who that student was and also doing some contact tracing around to see who else that could have possibly been affected by that student. They reached out to all those parents, to make them well aware of the situation, and they, went ahead and went into protocols as far as like quarantining those students again, and until they can actually get healthy and produce a negative test to get back into the school system.
Are you a parent of a child in this school?
I'm a parent of two children in the school district. Not that school in particular, but two schools within the district. My daughter goes to one elementary school, and my son, who is autistic, he goes to another school. And our school district gave us a lot of choices, as many choices as they possibly could, to fit everybody's needs, but also be able to protect those students. We had the option to do what's called e-learning, essentially learning from home. And we also had the option to, send our kids back into school. But of course, with social distancing guidelines, most of the students are, wearing masks. All of the staff, everybody is required to wear a mask. So, we had a lot of, I want to say precautions and, safety precautions and protocols that they're putting in play. But yeah, I have one student who's actually home and then one student who actually does go into the school.
And this, of course, disrupts parents' lives. It's difficult for them to work if their kids can't be in school. At the same time, if kids go to school and pick up the virus, even though they may not get sick, they may turn into someone who can transmit the virus to family members, including grandparents and older members of their family. So this is a very serious problem that we really haven't found an answer for yet, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's true. I think that even with most of our children going back into school, like at least us and our family, we are still operating as if we are in full lockdown. So yes, my son does go to school, but once he comes home, we don't take our children out grocery shopping. We don't go to, parks all the time or do anything of that nature. We actually are still operating as if we're still on lockdown. So like us, we are taking a lot of precautions just because of we're sending at least one of our children into the school. We don't want to take a chance on, him getting infected, in any other part of our daily life. So we are still operating as if we are still on full lockdown. Only one of us, as parents, me and my wife, only one of us really go outside of the home at the same time. We haven't really traveled anywhere. As far as going to see family, like we even have a relative of ours who is, very sick, and we still have not, as a family, went to go, see him, but we do give him our, best wishes and hope that he actually pulls through.
Well, obviously, this is an ongoing challenge for parents, for schools, for teachers, for administrators, for board members. Now, let's get to your deciding to run for office. What made you want to decide to run for Clark County Board of Education?
Mainly, I wanted to run because I didn't like some of the decisions that were being made on the board. Basically, it revolved around like property sales. There were a few underhanded deals that I think were, even though they were against the law, they probably weren't, really ethical when we think about it in that terms. There was basically no bid sales based on two school properties within our school district, and I didn't like the way that was handled. But also, there was not only that, it was the actual funding of the education itself. Like at one point, they were talking about defunding all of our arts programs and not necessarily getting rid of those teachers, but definitely getting rid of those programs. So you want to talk about art, band, music,
Well, obviously, as a musician,
performing arts.
that's a subject that's close to my heart. And you and I spoke
Mm-hmm.
earlier today, and one of the things we discussed was first of all, we discussed charter schools, and I believe you said you are not in favor of charter schools.
No, I'm not. I think that they are basically used as a tool to defund public education. When we talk about charter schools, they're typically used with a voucher program also in play, and that's what's happening to us in Indiana. And I hope that in Kentucky, this was coming, into fruition on, up in the assembly before COVID took over and kind of derailed it. But this is probably something that's going to come back up once, all of the COVID gets resolved. So I definitely want people from Kentucky to at least look into Indiana and look and see how charter schools and the voucher program affected our education, and then look at the differences of, how that's affected our students. Because you can tell it's night and day.
And in other words, I believe what you're saying is that as you extend, as money is taken away from public schools, then kids that are in public schools, their education suffers because of using public funds to support charter schools. And the way that I have said it in the past is we've always had charter schools. We call them private schools, and it seems inappropriate to use public money to fund private schools. The wealthy are plenty wealthy and can afford to pay for these schools, and it seems wrong. We're better off as a society to have an educated population, and dismantling public schools seems to be a step in the wrong direction.
Definitely. I would say to sum everything up, the difference between charter schools and public schools is public schools have to give everybody a free education, no matter who they are, and charter schools essentially get to pick and choose, and they don't have to adhere to the same standards as public schools do.
Yes. Now, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here because we didn't discuss this earlier, but I wonder how you feel about a national child care program. In other words, a program where folks can have a federally funded, approved, monitored child care facility to take their children to so they can go back to work once their children are old enough, which would possibly help deal with the issue I'm hearing about that kids who show up in kindergarten aren't really ready to be in kindergarten. They haven't been socialized. Have you got any thoughts about a national child care policy?
I would love a national child care policy. I think that it would not only better prepare, students for school, but also it helps out a lot of parents. We can actually be more productive as a society. We can actually have, both parents within the home actually go out and, to get a job, for everybody instead of, like right now, a lot of families, there's only one person working or nobody's working in the home. So like to have childcare, it enables those people to go out and get jobs and be more productive. So definitely, I fully support that.
And it looks like also a lot of times in Kentucky what we see, and I suspect in a lot of other states, that families rely on relatives to provide child care, which puts even more stress on a family. So, for those who talk about family values and this kind of thing, it makes sense to me that a national child care program, and by the way, I favor that in my contract for rural and working America, which at some point, if you get a look at, you might be willing to lend your support to that. Well, is there anything else you would like to mention about education nationally or locally?
From what I understand, that you're involved with a nationally recognized anti-bullying program. I had a chance to look up a little bit of it, and I believe. Could you tell us what the name of it is? Because I know it's an acronym.
It's actually
exactly
not It's not an acronym. It's Ulvaeus. It's named after the doctor who started the program, Dr. Ulvaeus, and it's a W that you pronounce like a V. The program is called OLWEUS, and Dr. Ulvaeus came up with this. It's the internationally recognized most successful bullying prevention program. And in a previous life, Pam and I were co-founders of one of the first bullying prevention, the first bullying prevention program in Los Angeles County, along with some other parents. It wasn't just us. And I skipped the fourth meeting and became co-chair, so I learned about skipping meetings. Anyway, when you're dealing with kids that come from a lot of different backgrounds, and you and I discussed this earlier in Kentucky, I'm not sure about Indiana, but in Kentucky, we have 90 different languages being spoken in the homes other than English. And when folks come in from a house that speaks a different language and they're focused on getting involved in a school, the school needs to set up a new community that everyone can be part of, and that's part of what Olveus does. I also want to say to anybody listening, if you're aware of any families that are suffering with bullying in their schools, if it's in Kentucky, the Kentucky Board of Education already has a certified Olveus trainer. That trainer can train other trainers. They've got a budget. They can give you supplies. So it doesn't have to cost you anything, even though the school district that Pam and I were part of had to find funding. We had to find $90,000, and one of our parents found $90,000 to convert 6 schools into the Olveus program. This is separate of the election that I'm involved in. So I just say, if any of you are aware of families that need help with bullying and ways of dealing with a school system, that either Pam or I can be helpful with that. Well, Keith, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you'll come back and visit us and let us know how it goes. We wish you a lot of luck, and it's not an easy thing to run for office, and I appreciate you offering your service here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, Keith, thanks so much, and we will see you. Some other time. All right. That was Keith Freeman, and Keith is running for school board in Greater Clark County. Now, I thought I always try to end with something uplifting, and this is uplifting in kind of an unusual way. We'll see how you feel about this. We always want to have some good news, especially in these times of COVID. So I did find this very interesting story. It says, fact or fiction, people swallow 8 spiders a year while they sleep. I don't know about you, but I certainly snore when I sleep. And the idea that spiders crawl in and I eat them is not my favorite thought, and I imagine a bunch of you are not so pleased about that as well. Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, the good news in this article, which you can see is at Scientific American, is that they think it's extremely unlikely that you swallow any spiders, because spiders are very sensitive to vibration, and sleeping human beings, they snore, they move around. Spiders would definitely not be interested in getting into your mouth. So I guess we should feel happy about that, the idea that we're not eating spiders. Another reminder, remember, we're going to have Dr. Greg here. He'll be here on Thursday, and tomorrow, let me get my numbers together. Tomorrow we're going to have Mark Andes, legendary bassist for the bands Spirit, Jojo Gunn, Heart, and Firefall. I see Brian Pothier is here. Brian, you haven't been here, I don't believe, so we use this sound to remind you to share this with your Facebook friends. And we save the Wilhelm scream for whenever we mention President Trump, just because that's how we're all feeling. But Brian, good to see you, and thank you for being here. Now, the thing I also want to remind you all, we could end this virus anytime we wanted. All we need to do is go Godzilla on this thing. That's all we've got to do. So I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. I love you very much, and tomorrow I'll be here at 2:30. By the way, also on Friday, I'm going to be on Bob Valvano's radio show sometime between 2 and 3 Eastern, and when I get the details about that, which should be interesting. I think we're going to talk about music. And Bob Valvano, of course, is the brother of Jim Valvano, who was the legendary NCAA coach who won the championship, and I want to say in 86 or 85 with NC State. And Bob is working on he's got a charity called the Friends of V to raise money for research for cancer. And I'm going to be helping with that as well. That event is coming up on August 27th. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Remember to go Godzilla. And on the virus, that's what we're going to have to do to end this thing. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks.